what we're gonna do today is talk about basically baits you've never probably seen before. This is kind of one I haven't really been able to do for a while. I've wanted to do this video. Oh man, I hope it's okay because it's blowing out here a little bit today. That's why I'm not out on the water, because we had a big front come through and I just don't feel like being out there with it being this windy. Anyways, so what I did is, this is kind of, I don't really even know about this video, like what I'm trying to talk about, in the sense of I'm just kind of give you a little insight as to kind of how I started my deal with Strike King, right? Like why I kind of have developed a weird little sense of baits, new baits, like what I got to do at a pretty young age with some other things. First off, with like Lure Jensen. I knew a Lure Jensen sales rep. He used to give me baits all the time when I was a little kid. And so I used to go out there all the time. Shout out to my buddy, Ken Seifert. But he used to be a rep for Lure Jensen. And I would always go to his office, man, as this little kid. And he would give me like, hey, try out this bait. And I'd always just come back to him like, man, I caught him on this. And I caught him on that. And so it was kind of like when the first one ever was a speed trap. Like I'd never known what a speed trap was. And so I started kind of just having this weird, I liked catching fish off baits that no one else had, right? Or new ones. And that was one of my deals. It's kind of how I evolved into the fisherman I am, that I kind of go off the rails a little bit and throw some different things. I try to do things a little bit different. And it's really because of this. So I'm going to show you all these baits that y'all have probably never seen before, probably never heard of. I'm not saying all of them are good. What I've learned from them though is I've just learned a lot of different things. Like this bait in particular, it wasn't even a bait to fish with. They didn't make this bait to fish, so I'll explain it. But what happened was I took some things from this, and how it looks and how they want it to fish, it's not how I fished it and caught fish. Some big ones too, and you'll understand why I caught big ones. But let's take a look. All right, so here it is. All right, this is, I mean, look at this big thing. And guys, like this thing is huge, right? And I was like, what in the world am I gonna do with this? Well, it's funny, when they built this bait, if you can see, there's an egg sac in there, right? It looks just like an egg sac you would find in like crappie and I guess bass. I don't really clean bass. But any of us that went crappie fishing, you know, when they're about to spawn, you'll see that looks the same thing. They did this because over there overseas, they were trying to promote fish conservation and things like that. And it was really just a bait to put up and just show, like no one was actually fishing with it. I'll be honest with you, this, I mean, look at that. I don't even know what that says. Pretty cool looking paint job, pretty different. I've caught some giants on this one, not this one in particular, but yeah. And I'll be honest with you, the bill, it's supposed to dive. Like I said, it's not even supposed to dive. It's just is what it is. It was just something to look at. But when I fished, I didn't make it dive. I waked it. And if you see this stupid thing, and I say stupid, if you see this tail looks like the dumbest thing on here. Guys, this tail, I'm not going to talk about this tail because I don't want to give too much away. This tail was the coolest thing about this bait. And I'm still going to implement this on some things. Not this in particular, just when this came through the water, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's pretty interesting the way I was working it. So that's what I'm trying to explain, is that like sometimes I'll take a bait and I didn't work it like how it's supposed to be worked, and I can implement something like this and it starts making my mind think, right? So there's one of them. And I just got all kinds of stuff. These things I've had forever. I'm a real big guy. Like I'll throw, I mean, this thing's bigger than my hand. You can see it's got some teeth marks on it. I'll go and throw this thing. I don't even know what the names of some of these things are. Oh, I remember this big, they had a bunch of different sizes of this one. Where's the other ones? Oh yeah, this thing's really interesting. This little bait, I can actually pop it, the small one for sure. I can pop it and I swear it doesn't ever move. Like it doesn't ever move forward. Caught a lot on those. Those are just some normal ones, right? I had some different looking top waters. They all, like, they're all different, right? They all kind of did different little things. Oh, this is the one. This one was really interesting. Really different design, looks different on the back end. I'm trying to find, I caught a 10 on this on Rayburn one day. Actually, I caught like 2 monsters on, not this color. I don't even know where they're at. It's pretty bad. It's really hard to work this bait in a sense because it doesn't really, you never really know what it's gonna do. And like I said, I kind of figured out why that is. So there's some of those. I just keep all random baits in here that I've collected. If y'all see, that looks a lot like the hunchback that they used to make, but with a bigger bill. I don't think anyone has anything like this in the United States. These are probably like some of the only baits in the United States, like those two. I pretty much have a lot of these. I guarantee you no one has this. That thing, I had it painted, and I really just had it painted for 1 or 2 lakes because it's so big and gaudy. But yeah, and loud. That thing, you got to throw that. You can't even throw that on a cranking rod. It's so heavy and big. They had these other ones, and the sun kind of got to them and cracked them. And yep, there's me burning the bill and shaving on both of these. But if you can see, not these things, but all those are all, not these big cracks, guys. I know what big cracks are. I'm saying these smaller ones. Those are all teeth marks. I've caught a lot of fish on this thing. And you're like, look at that bill. Hey guys, like, I know, but I was young and I didn't have any other way to mess with it, but I got these baits to work the way I wanted them to. I've messed around with enough bills, and yeah, these were interesting. I still got them. What else I got? That's just a regular old crankbait. I know it's nothing special, but it is a crankbait that like I said, I just kept on messing around with different crankbaits. This one was a pretty interesting one. I still catch a lot of fish on these. You can tell some of these are even, just the paint jobs on them are crazy. And I like to fish a lot of these crazy paint jobs, but the loudness of some, like, you won't find a topwater that's this loud. So I kind of learned a little bit of some things about that. Now we're getting into some weird stuff. So I think these were called like Decabasses or whatever. They didn't really do much. That one did more. The problem with some of these when I would throw them, I'm trying to see if any of them kept the same hooks on there. No, these are hooks I changed out. I think I changed out all the hooks that were on them at one point in time because they were big, giant looking, shark looking hooks. They made a lot of baits like this that had the soft plastic tail. Look, this was their kind of a glide bait before glide baits were even glide baits. I mean, years and years ago, before glide baits were around, this is what that does. So I used to catch a lot of fish off this. I'm gonna do another video about why I don't fish with glide baits and why I don't really have a lot of faith in them. But not that they won't catch fish. Some of the paint, what made me mad about some of these is that, like, this thing would look a lot better, but the paint jobs on them, it's not that they're bad. It's just, the bigger the bait, when you put a paint job on them, right, they get very gaudy. So sometimes subtle is better. But like, I've thrown all these things. I've got to mess with a lot of them. These were a lot of the different, see if there are some of these crankbaits. They made a lot of crankbaits with different bills like this. Those used to go really deep. This was my all-time favorite crankbait that you can't even find anymore. I don't get rid of these. I have a ton of these painted in a lot of different colors. Yeah, I still keep these. Some of these, man, I'll give some baits away and stuff. I'm not giving any of these away. That's one I did not like. So like I learned some things about some different baits. This bait, the shape of it looked great. That bill, horrible bill. Like it just drags and like it's like a big old, it just catches so much water that it's always just catching water. It doesn't try to do this, it's just dragging. Did not like, this was the bigger version of it. Okay, that's the bigger version, even worse. Like, did horrible. Didn't like that at all. But I did like these. Those were different. So, like I said, got to mess around with a lot of different crankbait bills. So, like I said, some of them I liked, some of them I didn't. I don't even know what's in here. Oh yeah, like I'd go out there. Like I said, these top waters are giant, right? So this was like actually before the Mega Dog, like 10 years before the Mega Dog. I was out there throwing baits like this, figuring out if bass would bite them, and it always used to shock me when they did. I don't even know what's in this deal. Wake shad, I might keep that. They had the little small deck of bass. Had some of them. Oh, that's nice. Oh, y'all need want to know what this is. This was an Alabama rig. I know exactly what this is. I gotta throw this away. This was the first, when the Alabama rig came out, we were at Kentucky Lake about to fish a championship. I ended up making the cut. It was a Toyota Lake Championship, and I made the cut. And someone had talked about the Alabama rig, like they had just found out about. So look guys, look at this. We made them. This is like coat hanger wire, swivel, shrink wrap, like swivel. And why I have the frog, like that's not what I had on there at the beginning. I was gonna go try this old frog thing, but yeah, that was the actual one. Like we made that the week after that Alabama rig kind of made its debut, and that's what I'm doing with that. Just have a ton of old school baits in here. This is one, like I said, those were ones that yeah, I'm not getting rid of those. I said more of those, they were called Buster Jerks, but they were glide baits. You had to get the right color on them. But these, well, this one, I'm gonna have to go find the other ones because I wanted to show you them. So they used to make these Flex Phantoms, and that was really what I first started getting into swim baits. And I learned a ton from this bait. When it was on, it was on. When it wasn't, it wasn't. But there's a lot of things I took from this bait. And design wise, when I say it wasn't designed right, there was a lot of flaws to it. But the overall action of them biting it, I mean, like I've got teeth marks even on a lot of these things, and these aren't even ones I even throw really that much. This one was always interesting too. I kind of have revisited these lately. I doubt anyone has anything like this. This was like one first of its kind. Let me try to go see if I can find the bigger ones. So here's another one of these. I found that one. What else? So these were glide baits back before, like this was the new version of their glide bait. And like I said, these are pretty old. I mean, I've had these for 10 or 12, 13, 14 years. This is one that never made. Like it looked really good. Like I was really excited to throw this, but it just wasn't. They looked really cool, right? And they had a lot of good looking trout deals, and I might go back out there and mess around with it some more. Always like to get a different perspective. What do I got going on in here? A bunch of stuff. Oh yeah. So like I said, gone around. I'm glad I got this one in there and that one. All right, good. Let me get some of this stuff out. So they used to have this big giant, like that's a giant glide bait too. Like I said, they weren't really called glide baits back then because these weren't really a thing. Like, these weren't even designed in, none of these were in the US. Like, none of this stuff was in the US. Like, this stuff, like, look at this thing, man. I think I have one out. Even, now this I caught some too. Golly, it kind of makes me mad that oh man, come on. This was a pretty cool concept that they were gonna make this, like, this was like, you know, remember that old, God, who made them? It was the ball, like the bait ball deal inside the bait. Well, these were coming out before then, and it was these like 2 baits in one. Sometimes they'd make them clear, sometimes it'd be 2 different ones. Maybe I can find another one, but a lot of times they look just the same, just smaller. Pretty interesting stuff. This thing, golly, these tails on them melted. I've caught some fish on this. Man, like I said, it's funny. Back in the day, if you'd have seen me out there on the water, different crankbaits, different topwaters like this. These are all old stuff that, man, I was throwing. Like, they had so many crankbaits like this. I got to get on my jerkbait one too. Like, these are all baits that no one's ever. These came out for a little bit, and they were this hinge in the front of it like that. There's probably some more you can do with this. I had some guys I knew of that I had given some to that, like, caught them on it. What else do I got in here? Oh, this one was pretty interesting too, because it was like, that's kind of like a jerkbait, guys. It's pretty insane. There's some things I want to do with that one too. Said I was always out there just throwing these guys. I was always just throwing big. Oh yeah, I don't know if anyone remembers this thing. This was a pretty cool concept, and you worked it this way, and it would all fold up, and when you let it go, this thing would open up, and it would go back down like a crawfish. It's probably why I design baits the way I do. A lot of these baits like this will win iCast, right? Like, if I came out with this bait right now, it'd probably win iCast. The problem is, functionality wise, a lot of those baits that win iCasts, functionality is really not that good. Like, you could do this and it's great, but a jig works way better and it's more functionality better. But if you can see, I was tying braid here to here because I was having bass on beds and other things, like bite this and swim off with it. And so I would put these little hooks in there and tie braid to this. Like I said, I was doing all that kind of stuff, and it looks good. Functionality wise, yeah, not that great. And even back then, let's see, is this one of them? So that was my color that I designed for them. I'm trying to find one. I know I've got one. It's got my signature on it and stuff. Oh, there it goes. So even back then, like, there's my signature. This was a kind of a cool little rattling bait, man. It was kind of different. And it had 2 different line ties, depending on where you wanted to fish it. So goofy looking crankbaits right there. That's like a different looking rattling bait. Like, they all were different. Like, I'm telling you guys, when I talk about being able to throw another different kind of crankbait, another different kind of topwater, I just had unlimited access. Here's one with my signature on it. All right, so that's just kind of what I wanted to share with y'all, is that, like, I still have a ton of these baits, and I don't even want to show you what's in there. I kind of have to dig around for them, because I don't really know what I'm going to do. I kind of keep them around, and about every year or two, I kind of something pops in my head. Like I know the other day I was out there throwing this thing on, I wanted to see what it looked like on live scope is the reason I got it out. I had forgotten about this jerk bait, and some of these other baits I'd forgotten about. I'm kind of interested to kind of like go throw these things again, and probably because of the whole glide bait thing, I kind of want to see what they look like. Like I said, a lot of them, in my opinion, they didn't catch fish because of the colors, right? I think the actions were good, but the colors were too much. So there's some things that I might like bring back around and go, okay, that's a good idea. Let me tweak it. Let me do some different things. And like this one, like I said, I'm going to implement this tail, right? I'm just going to. I don't know on yet what, and it won't even be just like that, but like when I see something, I might take one little thing off of a bait and then it just goes into a whole different direction. And so it's crazy to think that I've caught on fish on every one of these things, and it's where the Hybrid Hunter came around. Like it just took forever because I had all this stuff, and you're like, oh man, you could just go out there and throw it. You go throw one of these baits and you throw it at the wrong time, it might be the best bait in the world, and you just missed the day. Like it wasn't the right day, it wasn't the right time of the year, wasn't the right lake. Like it's very hard to figure out these baits. It was just me, and like I probably had 150, 200 different baits that I was always trying to figure out, and you just don't have that much time in the day, right? And you don't have that many days. But that's kind of where it all happened and started with me and my like new job with Strike King on the innovation part. And so this helped, like having this as an access when I was younger, man, it meant everything to me. Like that, I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know I was just kind of young, and it was kind of cool to see baits that no one had ever seen really. They had seen them overseas, but no one had ever seen them here. So most of these baits to this day, I'd say 90% of these baits, I'd say probably 99% of these baits, no one's ever had or seen before in the United States. So if they've seen them, they probably never fished them, and then doubtful anyone's ever caught a fish on them. Like, right? I don't know. Tell me, has anyone ever caught a fish on that? I have. And there's some things about it that's pretty interesting. I can tell you where they bite it. Most of them, 75, 80% of them only bite the back hook. Don't know why. No, I mean, that will tell you that they don't really like it, right? That's what we've all heard. Like, it's better when they eat it from the front. Maybe if I go back out there, like maybe I'll fish it differently now that I know more about it. I don't know. But little things, it's just little things like that I learned. This one, that one top water I showed that I talked about having, I got to get it out for you guys now. So this one, yeah, I know what it's called. It's called the SP Popper. Well, the one I was throwing that I caught most of them on had this color right here. Now, if you notice, most top waters, if they put any color, right? Say they put some orange or yellow, they put it right here on the belly, and sometimes it's just right there. Well, they had it right here. Let me tell you something. You know how many fish I caught on that thing on the back hook and not the front hook? Like most of them again. So I was like, I ain't ever putting that color on the back like that. I'll never put highlight on the back like that. It's gonna go on the front. You know, I'm not saying I'm the one that figured that out. I'm just saying, for me personally, I'm like, okay, note to self, don't ever have a color like that. Like, make sure it's where you locate that color. So I try to implement all that stuff when designing these new baits, different things. I try to take all this and then everything I got in there, and I try to take it all into account when I kind of come up with these new baits. Anyways, just wanted to share that with y'all. Been meaning to do this. So anyways, hope y'all enjoyed that.